We're back. Buckle up and get ready for the ride. The Platinum Truth is back. Welcome to the truth, the Platinum Truth. Are you ready? Live from Miami, Florida, USA, and broadcasting around the world. You're listening to the Platinum Truth Podcast, the show that covers everything going on that you need to know about. The people have voted. Are you ready? And now, here's your host, Mike Martin. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. It's been a while, but we've had some work to do. We've had some things to make sure we taken care of. And now it's time to get back to work, bringing you the Platinum Truth. We're going to be covering all things going on in the world. We're going to be covering all the things that are important to you. We're going to be covering U.S. politics. We're going to be covering pop culture. We're going to be covering all the things that matter today that you need to know about, that you need to be informed about. We're going to take a little bit of a different approach to things than we did in the past. We're going to be covering the most pressing issues. We're going to be focusing on some of the most important things going on in the world right now, with a particular focus on three things that are really causing a lot of problems in the West, and I will say are existential problems to Western culture, to our Western democracies, and to the citizenry of these democracies and what they care about most, their freedom, the truth, and their way of life. We're going to be focusing on things like the globalist agenda. We're going to be focusing on leftism, its determination to bring down the West and our beautiful countries in the West as we know it, particularly in the United States. We're going to be talking about Islam. Islam is on the march. Islam is a force that is not at our gates, but is in fact inside our gates. Islam has been let in by treasonous, traitorous, so-called leaders who are largely, mostly, almost always, in this case, doing the work of the globalist agenda, and also doing this because they are ignorant, misinformed, foolish, all of the above. And we're coming back to make sure you're hearing the truth about what's going on in the United States, in Europe, in Canada, and all those other Western countries where you're viewing this content from. Hopefully you subscribe. Hopefully you like the episodes that we're releasing. You hit that like button because we want to try to grow this podcast as big as possible, get as much attention as possible so that we get the word out. It's important. It's important to do this because if we're not doing it, no one is, and we're going to be in a lot more trouble than we are in today. And I think everybody listening today understands we are in big trouble. We're not on the precipice of trouble. We are in big trouble right now. So let's start off first by talking about what's going on right now with the Iran war. Now, there's a lot of dishonest coverage out there with regards to the Iran war. I think you all know you're not going to get reliable coverage from the mainstream media. They're going to give you a slanted approach, as they usually do. That slant is going to be from the perspective, from the filter of leftist agenda. And that means essentially when a conservative president does take an action like what President Trump has taken with Iran, they're going to look to undermine his action, his agenda, his goals. But if it was not his action, if it was the action of, let's say, a President Obama or a President Biden or a President Clinton, they would not be reacting the same way. They'd be in full support. You guys all know this. You're smart enough to know this. You're smart enough to know that everything they say, how they frame things, is cherry-picked from the angle of wanting to make their audience feel like President Trump is a failure. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a danger, all that other stuff that they've been pushing for his entire second presidency and, of course, his entire first presidency. So we're also going to be covering the folks out there in the podcast world, in the YouTube world, in the social media space, call them content creators, influencers, whatever you like. And we're going to be covering why a lot of those people aren't telling you the truth or are cherry picking things to essentially push their agenda. And unfortunately, this is not just coming from the left content creators. We know what to expect from them. They're just mouthpieces of the Democrat Party or whatever political party is in your particular nation that you're listening to this podcast from. But also, unfortunately, we have an element on the conservative side that is pushing a lot of nonsense with regards to the Iran war. You'll notice that a lot of the things they're pushing today, if not all of them, are the exact same things they were saying when Trump initiated the 12-day war, okay? Right off the bat, they were saying the same things they're saying today. This is a forever war. This is disaster. This is World War III. Let's get ready for World War III. We're in World War III. We're going to be in this forever. It's a debacle. All of that stuff, all the things you're hearing from them, they said the same stuff in the 12-day war. But they didn't know it was going to be a 12-day war. So they were made to look foolish. They realized, oh shit, we said all this stuff that didn't actually happen. There wasn't some defeat on America's part. There wasn't some bogged down situation for years. And Trump ended up achieving his goals. And the administration, the military ended up achieving the goals pretty quickly within 12 days. And they stepped back and said, okay, that's what we have for now. Now we know it was round one. But it made all these people, even on the conservative side, look extremely foolish. Did they pull back and admit that they were wrong? Did they pull back and readjust their framing and their filter and the way they look at things and the way they present things to their audience? Hell no, of course not. You're not going to get that from dishonest, intellectually dishonest people, and we have some on our side. You're not going to get that, and that's not what they did. And you notice when this second round of basically the same situation, going back to the 12-day war, commenced, they jumped right back on to the exact same arguments. They didn't take it easy, take it slow because of how silly they looked with the things they said on the 12-day war side of things. But instead, they just jump right back in. So, you're just these people will never learn, unfortunately. We have people like that on our side. You guys know who they are. It doesn't mean those people are not good people who have done good work for our side, and we agree with a lot of the things they believe and said and want to achieve. A lot of these people do have similar values and goals that we have, but they also have an underlying agenda that appears to have taken over a lot of the rational ways they could look at things, and instead are driving everything that they're seeing. One such aspect to this, one such example of this is this idea that the U.S. government, the U.S. military, and also, even more silly, Donald Trump is being pushed, cajoled, convinced, tricked by the Israeli government, by Netanyahu. And that's just ridiculous. I mean, it's absurd to say that the U.S. government, all of the institutions in it, all of the people in it, involved in it, cabinet members, heads of various agencies, are all going to go along with just one country and one guy, Netanyahu, just throwing out some BS salesmanship, and everybody else just falling in place, going, okay, that sounds good to me, or not just taking away everything that they know about the situation. the Iranian situation in this case, and being fooled or being cajoled or being convinced. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to suggest that a nation of 9 million people, Israel, is driving a nation of 350 million people. A nation like Israel, who is not the most powerful nation in the world, is guiding and driving the most powerful nation to ever exist, with the most powerful military to ever exist, and particularly with a president like Donald Trump, who can be influenced in some ways, but he's influenced in ways that are in regards to his goals, not somebody else's goals. We know what we know about President Trump, and I think we can all agree he's not perfect. But here's the thing: I think any intelligent person, I think this audience will fully understand and agree that nobody is perfect. If you became president out there, you would not be perfect. Your past would not be perfect, and your present would not be perfect, and your future would not be perfect. The choices you made would not be perfect. Everybody understands this about themselves. It's weird how there's this idea with President Trump that we're going to hold him to some standard that nobody else is held to. And you can't even make some stupid argument like, well, he's the president, he should be this and I don't have to be this. No, you're still a human being. You're still going to do your best and make mistakes. You're still going to have some thinking that isn't in line with maybe the reality or the truth. So we need to be honest about President Trump all of the time, but we also have to understand and just be compassionate individuals, and just forget about even the passion, the sort of emotional side of things, to have the intelligence to understand that if you're looking for a president who is going to be absolutely perfect on absolutely everything, then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. You're setting yourself up for, it's just stupid at the end of the day. You're not going to partake in democracy or voting because you don't have everything you want. You're never going to get everything you want. The fact of the matter is President Trump is by far the best president the United States has ever had, at least in the last 100 years. Probably, it's arguably ever, in my opinion. And I think anyone who understands the United States, understands what's good for the United States, what's good for the culture, the people, understands that, no matter what, he is the best thing to happen in the United States in a long time. And frankly, he's the best thing to happen in the world in a long time. He's done the things he's done in the United States have given cover and courage to other leaders around the world, especially in the Western world, to do the things that, had Trump not become president, they wouldn't have had the balls to do. They wouldn't have the courage to do, the intellectual capacity to do. But he has done so much with regards to not just America, but the rest of the world, to set an example of what leadership looks like, what courage looks like. And that is something that we need to all be thankful for, not just in America, but around the world. Here's a quick example before we get back to the Iran war. Okay, he is putting together a council and an agenda across the Western world to start talking to leadership in Europe, in Canada, in Australia, in New Zealand, in the UK. This is very badly needed. Telling them, hey, you need to stop letting in this mass migration. It's destroying your country. And if you're not going to do it because you don't have the balls, the courage, or the intellectual capacity to understand how much damage it's doing and how it's going to bring down your countries, we're going to force you to do it. But he's encouraging these leaders in a way that no other president ever has and could have. And he's setting the tone in a way that, thank God he is president, because the rest of the world would just be absolutely fucked if he wasn't there. And the thing about what he's doing and why it's so valuable is he has taken all of the hits to say the stuff out loud that everybody with a sane mind is thinking. That they're looking around and seeing their societies change. They're being run over by invading colonist forces, particularly those of Islamic religion, Islamic backgrounds, and he understands this. He's saying this out loud. He took the arrows all the way back to his first presidency of being called a racist, a horrible person, Satan, Hitler, blah blah blah. And if he hadn't done that, if he hadn't had the courage to do that, then just like other presidents have never had, then it never would have been said out loud. And other people in other countries who aspire for leadership, but also just the regular populace who didn't have the courage to say this out loud, despite them believing this and understanding that this is what's happening, they would have been quieted to this day. It would have been from 2015 all the way to 2026 today. Nobody could say it. Nobody could talk about it. Everybody was scared of being called a racist, xenophobe, all that nonsense. This guy has done so much, and he's doing it again with the Iran war. The Iran war is something that should have happened a long time ago. Unfortunately, we all want peace. We all want to negotiate our way to better results in the world. But you cannot negotiate. And we're going to be covering a lot of this on the Platinum Truth with regards to Israel and their dealings with Hamas, Russia, Ukraine, China, all these things. You cannot negotiate with somebody who doesn't want to negotiate back, who is using the negotiations to buy time, to cheat, to lie, to get to their ultimate goals. With the Iranians, it has always been, since 1979, to get nuclear weapons. They have played past presidents, the West in general, with all the leaders in the West being part of this, they have played them like a fiddle. They played them for fools, thinking that you can talk to the Iranian regime, the Islamic Iranian regime, and they're just going to say to themselves, well, yeah, we want what's good for the world and we want what's good for peace and all this stuff. They don't. President Trump is finally the first president to understand this and also then have actions that are in line with this, because that took courage, and every single president before this didn't have it, including the other Western leaders. And this action that's taking place today should have happened a long time ago. And had it happened a long time ago, it would have been easier. It would have been less costly. But because of inaction, it is what it is today. It is as big as it is today. And that is the fault of all of the people who have been arguing to this day and are still arguing that this action is something that's wrong and shouldn't have been taken. They were wrong then, they continue to be wrong today, and we just simply have to stop listening to them. They are always wrong. I'm talking particularly on the left. Okay. Generally speaking, everything that turns into shit comes from the left as far as their prescriptions and policies. And this is just another one. Obama made this situation so much worse because he's weak. I think he did it on purpose. I don't think it was a misunderstanding of the Iranians. I think he was born and raised a lot of his life under the umbrella of Islam and has a soft spot for Islam. And either he still maintains some sort of allegiance there, despite going to these churches that he's gone to with these radical pastors, these anti-American pastors, and having some sort of connection to a Christianity. I think that when he was living under an Islamic, growing up under Islam in Indonesia and places like that, I think that didn't all disappear once he got to America. He didn't shed this soft spot and this allegiance towards Islam. I don't believe it at all. I think you're a fool if you do. I think that he did a lot of things to empower the West's enemies, America's enemies. I think he did a lot of things clearly to advance Islam. And I think there were some things that he did that didn't seem like he was doing that, but I think that was part of the game, part of the strategy. And by the way, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is what happens. This is what people do when they play these kinds of roles. They look to deceive. It's part of the strategy. I mean, if you're not doing it, you're just kind of a fool. So why wouldn't he do that? So, this wouldn't have gotten here without the stupid left, without the soft, ignorant people, even on the right that we're seeing today, who are claiming that this action has no benefit to America. Okay, I've heard that. I've heard that from some of the people that I've really enjoyed listening to in the past. Some people like Tucker Carlson, and he's claiming that this doesn't benefit anyone but Israel. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. If your next argument is, well, they didn't pose an immediate threat to the United States. Well, first of all, they did pose an immediate threat. That's another piece of bullshit. They did pose an immediate threat. They posed an immediate threat since 79, since the revolution, since the Ayatollah took power. How do I know this? This is in speculation. Their actions, they didn't, you don't need to go and stab somebody with a knife and say, and then you're able to say, well, that person poses a threat to me. How about this? You give someone a knife, you give them the money to do it, you give them the plan to do it, the know-how to do it, and you send them along their merry way, being convinced that what they're doing is right because you've brainwashed them to believe that, or you found the people who already believe that. So you're telling me that a person who sets up that situation but doesn't actually do the stabbing, you're telling me that person is not an immediate threat to you? Of course they are. Of course they are. So I don't know what people like Tucker Carlson are talking about when they say Iran is not an immediate threat. There's been all kinds of incidents in the past 47 years where Iran was part of killing Americans, be that American soldiers or American civilians. They've also done that to all other Western nations, soldiers and civilians. So this idea that Iran is not a threat to America and Americans is absurd. Watch what happens in the next little while if we start getting bombs going off with Iranian sleeper cells. Okay. And by the way, just if it doesn't happen, that doesn't mean that it wasn't going to happen. It means that American law enforcement agencies and intelligence has gotten to them before they could do it. But the point is that Iranians have even said that they have sleeper cells in America. Why do you have sleeper cells? Because you're not an immediate threat. What are the sleeper cells for? To have a party with you? I mean, I cannot believe that someone as intelligent as Tucker Carlson is saying this kind of stuff. Somebody like Megyn Kelly is also saying, now, to be honest with you, Megyn Kelly and I, she does believe a lot of the same things I do, a lot, not all. But she, again, has a massive blind spot. But here's the thing about Megyn Kelly, okay? And I think you could see, if you think about her past actions, if you remember her past actions, being an anti-Trump, never Trumper initially, then coming aboard on the Trump bandwagon, and now coming off the Trump bandwagon in many respects, particularly with regards to foreign policy. You notice a pattern with her, okay? The pattern is that a lot of almost everything she ever says and believes in doesn't come from her. She is easily influenced. She is somebody who looks to other people that she admires and respects and then says, oh, what that person's saying makes sense. And she adopts that. And then pushes it like it's her own. Okay, a lot of people do that. Unfortunately, that's what sheep do. That's what 70% of people do in society. I think at least I believe it's about a 7% number, probably higher. Actually, I think I'm being kind of conservative and polite to say 70%. But 7 out of 10 people generally don't form their own opinions and hear it from other people and then subscribe to it and then justify it to themselves somehow that it came from them because their beliefs are in line, but it didn't come from you. I bet you I could convince you otherwise if you gave me enough time, because you're just that kind of person. There's a lot of people out there. Unfortunately, there's a lot on our side as well. The folks like Nick Fuentes is right about some things that he talks about, particularly about, the problems with Western society. But when he goes nutty and when he goes crazy is when he starts to filter and frame everything through his disdain for Israel and his disdain for Jews. And those are two separate things. I don't like it when people try to make them one thing, but it is the case that he also is very, very wrong about a lot of things when it comes to foreign policy. He's wrong about a lot of things when it comes to Israel. He's wrong about a lot of things when it comes to Jews as well. I would love to talk to him. I'd love to debate him. He obviously will not debate me because he doesn't know who I am. But maybe one day, maybe if you guys hit that like button, you hit the share button, you comment, we can get this channel up. And hopefully one day I will be able to have a conversation with a one-on-one debate, and a friendly debate, because I don't need to fight with anyone. Not interested. I'm here for the ideas. I'm here to bring you guys the truth. And the truth is, the Iranian war is something that is a necessity. It's absurd that people are saying that this war has gone on for 4 days and this, and this is happening, and oh, we're in trouble and there's problems, and that this was all a mistake. It's crazy. It's absurd. We're 4 or 5 days in now. We've gotten to a point, unfortunately, and here's the thing. Authoritarian dictators out there have always been able to pick at the weaknesses in democracies and been able to use those weaknesses against those democracies. And one of those weaknesses that we sort of realized pretty much around the Vietnam War era and ever since is that democracies, the people living under democracies, do not have a large appetite for war, and understandably so. Neither do I. I don't want war. I'm certainly not a neocon. I'm certainly somebody who wants to focus on our nation and diverting all of the resources to our nation building, not the nation building of other nations. I'm not a big fan of foreign aid. The only fan of foreign aid I am to the extent that it furthers our domestic interests. That's it. Other than that, I don't believe in foreign aid. I don't believe in giving foreign aid because we're nice and all this other stuff. No, we're nice when we help nations get better, and we help nations get better by being a strong nation, a strong example of what those nations should do for themselves. And that's where we start. And until we achieve that goal, we shouldn't be going to the next goal, which is just giving people cash. Giving taxpayer money that taxpayers didn't vote to give to other countries, sorry, including Ukraine. The Iran war is something that does further American interests and Western interests, even though Western countries are largely cowardly and will not take part, or will take part in a way that is not the most they could do. But it is what it is. We have to accept people for who they are, unfortunately. We don't have a lot of great leadership in the world today. We don't have a lot of great leadership in our own countries in the West. Getting back to what I was saying, democracies don't have an appetite for war for very long periods. We used to have the case where we could engage in a conflict and rely on the populace, our citizenry, to support the war and its aims for at least several years at a time. The Vietnam War went on for a long time, too long, but it went on for a long time. And then the citizenry, after years and years, grew tired of it. And that period of time that the citizenry are growing weary of war and growing exhausted from war, when a war has been engaged in, is getting shorter and shorter. We saw that during the first Iraq War in the early 90s. We saw that during the second Iraq War. We saw that during the Afghan War. Now remember, the Afghan War was, 10 plus years? Actually, it was 20 years. It was 20 years. So too long again, too long. And largely because of incompetence by our leaders, who weren't letting the military do their thing and weren't letting the militaries do the strategy they wanted to incorporate, but instead the political leaders were forcing the military to win, but with a stupid strategy, because the politicians wanted to cover their asses. So they implemented a strategy that was good, or covering CYA, cover your ass for the politicians, but not the strategy the military was saying to the political leaders, here's what will win. Right? And when you engage in a war, you have to engage to win, not in a certain timeline, not with any other objective, frankly. And that's why these wars have been lost. And now, because these wars have been lost for so long, the populace now has such a tiny window of exhaustion when it comes to wars that we are now in a place, as absurd as it is, that we are 4 or 5 days into a war. And a portion of the citizenry, a large portion, is already exhausted. Now, a lot of it has to do with the media, the way they're reporting this. Again, 7 out of 10 people, you can mold their mind to think whatever you want them to think. And when they hear it enough, 7 out of 10 people are like, must be true. So the media has a big role in that. But I mean, we are now in a place, as absurd as it is, where 5 days into a war, people are exhausted and saying, let's wrap it up. And people are even saying, well, what's the plan? We're 5 days in. We need to know the plan. We need to know how we're going to win. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just say all of our strategy out loud to the enemy. Let's just declare it out loud. Let's just hope the enemy is not watching us. Let's hope the enemy is not listening to us. Let's hope the enemy doesn't have their own intelligence services that are saying, oh, this is what they say they're going to do, and they're going to do it. So here's how we prevent from losing, because they just told us our strategy. Imagine going to a football game and one team's fans are saying to that team in the Super Bowl game, the one team's fan, the Dallas Cowboys versus New York Giants. And the Dallas Cowboy fans are saying, hey, we demand you guys win this game in 3 quarters. That you blow this team out in 3 quarters, and it's all done by 3 quarters, and then the rest of the fourth quarter is we're just going to drain time. But we need you to score as many points to win in 3 quarters, and unless you do that, forget it. We're not playing the game. We're not going to come. We're not going to see it. We're not going to see it. We're going to buy tickets. And we're not even going to think that we should be in the Super Bowl. And also, then the fans say to the team, to the general manager, to the head coach, to the owner of the team, and by the way, we want you to tell us exactly how you're going to win. And if you don't tell us, we won't support you. We won't buy tickets. We won't watch. We won't be fans. So tell us exactly how you're going to win. And we're not even thinking about whether that's going to make sure we actually do win. It's going to telling the other team our strategy to win isn't going to be a bad move strategically. This is the equivalent of what a lot of the American people are demanding right now with this war. And sadly, even a lot of the people in the Republican Party, in the conservative movement, are saying we need to know exactly what the strategy is 5 days out. Say it out loud. The enemy will hear it, but oh well, I gotta know. I gotta know. My ego's so big, I gotta know. So let's just telegram what the winning strategy is to our enemy, and let's just hope we can then still win. You get the football analogy? It's ridiculous. So unfortunately, we have a lot of people, even on our side, that are not thinking about this. Now, we're about half an hour in here. It's been a long video. I just wanted to pop in. It's the first episode back, give my thoughts on the Iranian war. And we'll definitely be back with a lot more things to talk about with regards to the Iranian war, but also everything else that's going on. We have planned fantastic interviews with fantastic guests. I just wrapped up the list of guests that we're going to be launching in the near term. You're going to love them. They're going to be guests that you're going to want to hear from. A lot of them are going to be guests that you don't even know about or have heard of. And that is really exciting stuff because you're going to hear some great perspectives. So you're not going to hear the usual talking points that are out there in the social media realm on YouTube, but instead a lot of great new ideas. So thank you for joining me today. I'm happy to be back. Please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please help grow this channel. Please throw in your comments. I want to hear every comment. If you want to support the channel, let's hear it in the comment section. If you want to tell me how I'm wrong and what I'm missing and what I'm not seeing, would love to hear it, because this is the platinum truth. At the end of the day, we are seeking the truth. So let's put it all out there on the table. That's what we're going to do here. We're not going to worry about political correctness or hurting anyone's feelings. The truth should never hurt anyone's feelings. And if it does hurt your feelings, guess what? That's your problem. Signing off, Mike Martin. See you soon.